Hi, everyone. I hope you're having a great Marjorie-man. My name is Amber Juria-Amel. I'm on the team at Cercante, and I'll be here moderating this session, Build AI-Driven Journeys in Marketing Cloud. I have Hunter Dunbar here from Cervello, and he's going to be presenting the session today along with Tim Ziter. I just wanted to give a couple housekeeping reminders. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A tab. And at the end of the session, if we have time, we'll get your questions answered. Thank you. Take it away, Hunter.
Great, thank you, Amber. You can see my screen, correct? Just want to double check. Okay, great. Yep, I can see that you can. That's awesome. All right, so my name is Hunter Dunbar. I'm going to be joined shortly by Tim Ziter. Tim and I work for Cervello. We are a wholly owned subsidiary of Kearney, management consulting firm, but we specialize in a bunch of different stuff under the Salesforce umbrella, but definitely Marketing Cloud is a big part of what we do. And today we're going to be talking about all the new features and solutions that you can build with Marketing Cloud, and also how you can augment Marketing Cloud journeys with AI data from Salesforce. Thank you to all the sponsors. Really enjoyed presenting at this conference and really appreciate being able to connect with people virtually like this. So we're going to talk about the new data sets, which are really emerging as core pieces of marketing journeys. We're going to talk about how to leverage those data sets using generative AI. We're going to talk about some of the new features that Salesforce gives us to create GenAI solutions. So specifically, we'll talk about Prompt Builder. And then we're going to talk about how this all comes together in Marketing Cloud and what are some of the other features that can be leveraged in Marketing Cloud. So this slide is supposed to have an animation on it, but let's talk about Marketing Cloud journeys. So traditionally with Marketing Cloud, we have contacts, opportunities, accounts, and Salesforce. We can pull in external data, we can pull in case data, all the kind of standard CRM data model that everybody here knows and loves. That gets integrated to Marketing Cloud using the Marketing Cloud connector. We take that data, we model it into data extensions, transform our data sets as they need to be transformed, and then we feed those into journeys, and journeys create these river deltas of different outcomes that can occur. And so we've got decisions that are based on criteria in the data set. Well, what we're going to talk about is, and that's traditional kind of core demographic data about our customers. Well, we have a new emerging source of data, which is called interaction data. And I'm going to talk a lot more about this in a bit, but as we introduce intelligent insights based on the interactions that we have with our customers, we're going to be able to introduce additional tributaries and paths that our customers can take as we guide them down a Marketing Cloud journey. So with our traditional journeys, we've got basic demographic data about our customers. We have all the traditional tools that are available in Marketing Cloud. Well, with AI-powered journeys, we still have that demographic data, but we're going to talk about a bunch of new features that can be built on top of traditional Marketing Cloud features and functionalities. So advanced segmentation, one-to-one content at scale, plugin tools like Typeface, advanced CMS. Tim's going to talk about this later in the talk. And then we also have interaction intelligence. So this is getting more data points which can be used to segment our customers more intelligently. So let's talk about transcription. We have been writing down spoken word like since the dawn of man, we've been writing in caves, right? Passing on stories. And throughout history, we've had, a bunch of different technological advances in this area. But definitely in the past 100 years, and specifically in the past 10 to 30 years, I think we've had major advancements. But we go beginning in the early 1900s. We have the introduction of the typewriter. In the mid 20th century, you've got these old pictures of like armies of typists transcribing calls and transcribing information using typewriters, putting that onto just a piece of paper, and then it goes into a filing cabinet. Well, if we fast forward to what we have today, you can speak, and the words that you speak, or the words that are in a conversation, can be almost immediately transcribed into a data layer on your cell phone, your machine, or in the cloud through a Zoom integration or what have you. And the big unlock for this is machine learning, and that computers are better at kind of understanding how humans talk and how that maps to a transcription. And so in the past, since 2014, you can see that the error rates on transcription have plummeted. I remember, like, you used to do talk to text on your phone. It would be just completely riddled with errors, and you would send a text message to a friend, and you would send something that was completely wrong. And if you do text to text on your phone now, like it's much better than ever before. So what are the traditional tools that Salesforce gives us to leverage unstructured transcription data? Because now we've got these large blocks of transcription data, but what are we going to do with it? Salesforce provided a couple tools in their old Einstein AI, and before that it was MetaMind. A couple different tools to analyze unstructured text. So named entity recognition takes a block of text and pulls out think of it like the proper nouns. So Mark Benioff, the CEO of Salesforce, gave the keynote speech at the conference in Paris last week. That's going to pull out a bunch of entities from that block of text. So Mark Benioff, CEO, Salesforce in Paris. Well, when Tim and I first started kind of thinking about this problem of how to analyze unstructured text, we were thinking about it in the context of a person working with a wealth advisor. That's a very kind of personal and human conversation that you could be having. And so we're using kind of like a traditional NER tool, and we said, "Good to see you again, Alex. It's been a few years, so I'm pleased we can get caught up on where things stand today across your financial picture." Well, named entity recognition is just looking for entities. And so it sees "good to see you again," and it recognizes a Whitesnake album. I guess there was a Whitesnake album called "Good to See You Again." So this tool's imperfect, and it's not exactly going to work for what we need to do. Then we've got sentiment analysis. I think most people are familiar with this. Takes a block of text and just says positive or negative. Is it good or bad? On like a kind of micro scale, it's not that helpful. Like a macro scale, if you needed to analyze 200,000 tweets, I guess it can give you a good thermometer of how your organization is doing. But for our situation, where let's say we have a Salesforce org and we have a ton of call transcripts, and we're trying to get insights from those call transcripts, well, sentiment analysis isn't really going to help us, but generative AI will. And so with GenAI, we can take an unstructured block of text, send it to an LLM, and say, "Give me the entities that were discussed." So I'm going to skip past this one. And let's talk about the application that I'm going to demo, which is how we kind of build our AI-driven insights. And this is going to take a bunch of call transcripts, And let's say that these call transcripts are between a wealth advisor and a potential client. And we're going to take an unstructured block of text and we're going to say, from this block of text, give me what financial goals were discussed, what products were discussed, did the customer raise objections, and were there any follow-up actions defined? And so what we get is we start with a bunch of just call transcripts, documents, and we end up with a bunch of structured data. So we have like who the customer is, what were the individual products they discussed, what were the individual objections, et cetera. And what this is going to let us do is we can report on our data and we can create insights about the types of things that we're talking about, and then we can provide sales coaching. And well, the third thing that should be listed here is we also can create better, more intelligent segmentation in our journeys. Okay, so when we first started building this application, we did it all custom. So I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to zoom in very well here, but essentially the application that we built integrated with a Python API hosted on Microsoft Azure and integrated out to the OpenAI chat completions API. On the Salesforce side, what we're doing is we're taking a call transcript, we're logging it to an object. We're then taking that transcript and copying it over to an object called an interaction summary. And that interaction summary triggers a call out to our Python API, which calls OpenAI, calls the LLM. The LLM is going to give us a response. We're going to save that back to Salesforce, and then we're going to parse that response into structured data, which we can report on. So we did all this work and got it to worked really well. And, then Salesforce released Prompt Builder. While we were building this, I think Prompt Builder was getting released, but I'm sure many people on the call here can commiserate that Salesforce released Prompt Builder and we were like, wow, that looks really great. That's cool. But there's no way we're going to be able to get access to that until 2026 is probably when it'll become generally available. Well, I was able to get access to a beta version of Prompt Builder, and we essentially took this whole application architecture and rebuilt it using Prompt Builder in about 4 hours. And so what did that actually entail? Well, in our old application, we had call transcripts saved in Salesforce. We had an Apex trigger, which was taking those call transcripts, passing it to an API, which was calling an OpenAI API. And that OpenAI API was returning response, which we were parsing in Salesforce and then saving as S objects in our database. Well, with Prompt Builder, we basically still have the call transcripts, still have a flow, which is calling the Prompt Builder. But Prompt Builder is simplifying everything in the middle here. So everything involving creating an integration, creating a call out to an LLM, getting that response back. And it's also doing it within Salesforce's trust layer. I don't know if Salesforce's trust layer, I don't know if they're actually calling an OpenAI API as part of that, or if they have their own hosted version of ChatGPT on a Salesforce server or not. But Salesforce will tell you that it's all within a trust boundary, which I think is much more advantageous than what we were doing back here, which is just calling an OpenAI API. So I guess I just kind of talked about these security advantages, but we definitely really liked this this solution and felt that it saved us quite a bit of time. over what we had originally built. So I've got some code here, which I think will be available after the fact. But before I pass it off to Tim, let me just share how this application kind of works end to end and talk a little bit about Prompt Builder. So, oh, you know what? I think I need to share my entire window here because I'm not sharing the right thing. Okay, so I will go to this. Okay, so if people are not seeing Salesforce, please let me know, but I think you should be seeing a Salesforce window here. And, you know, I talked in the, talked earlier about this application flow where we're creating, you know, we're logging a conversation to either a custom object or a task. We're saving it to an object called an interaction summary, and then using an LLM to generate entities that represent components of that interaction summary. So we go from unstructured interaction, transcript data, to structured entities, which describe that interaction. And so back here, when I go to a lead, I'm going to go here. I'm going to take call transcript. So here you can see I've got a call transcript. I've got Walter, who works for an investment firm. He's talking to Lily. Lily is, remember we were talking about a wealth advisor and a customer. They're going to be talking about financial products. They're going to be talking about financial goals. They're going to be talking about concerns, and then they'll have some follow-up actions at the end. So let me make sure that I've got all this copied. And I'm going to log a new task against Lily's lead here. And so I'll log this call. Normally, there would be some automatic integration between a telephony system in Salesforce, taking that call transcript and saving it somewhere. We're skipping that phase of this for demo purposes, but would not be a hard thing to do. And when I check this extract transcript insights and click save, I'm going to get a new interaction summary record. So I'm looking at the lead, and an interaction summary record just got generated. So here's my call transcript, all this data about these two people. You know, Lily's describing all of her financial assets, goals, etc. And we come down here and we've got an API response. And this is still blank because this is an asynchronous process right now. But when I refresh, you can see I'm getting an API response back. And that API response includes information about products that might have been discussed, some objections that might have been discussed, goals, and then finally follow-up actions. So we get this JSON object back, and we've got code on the back end, which is going to translate that into entities. Now I've got a nice structured version that I can use to analyze my call transcripts, and nice structured data, which I can pull into data extensions in Marketing Cloud. Before I move on, I'm going to talk briefly about Salesforce Prompt Builder. And so, you know, I mentioned that I got access to a beta version of Prompt Builder. Normally, you would be calling Prompt Builder from within your Salesforce org. But just to kind of make sure that I'm explaining every step of what I'm doing, our Prompt Builder demo org and our Marketing Cloud demo org are in separate places. So right now I'm making a call out from my Marketing Cloud org to the org that has Prompt Builder in it. you would never do this in real life, but it's just to demonstrate the features and functionality of the applications. So if I go to Prompt Builder, you can see we've got a bunch of different prompt builders available. So I'm going to create a new prompt template. And there's a couple different options that Salesforce gives you. So you can generate results to a field. You can create a flexible prompt. You can do answers to answers for knowledge articles, or you can do summarization of a record. Our prompt is going to be a flex prompt, and I can put in a name for this. And I'm not going to go through every step of this, but essentially we can define a couple different types of inputs for the prompt. And in our case, what we're going to do is we're going to create a prompt with an input, which is a call transcript. And so essentially what we're doing is we're doing a bunch of prompt engineering here. We're telling the LLM how we want to get a response back. We're giving it examples of the types of products it could detect, the types of objections it could detect, and we are then at the very end kind of inputting that transcript. And what Prompt Builder is going to allow us to do is we can test this prompt in real time. We can hook it up to different types of models. So right now we're using OpenAI's GPT-4, but you could use an Anthropic model, you could bring your own model, et cetera. So in the interest of time, I'm going to hand this over to Tim, but I'm happy to answer any questions about this solution later in the Q&A portion. All right, Tim. So if I stop, do you want me to go back to the slide where that'd be best?
Sure. Yeah, that would be okay if you wouldn't mind. Sorry, I'm late.
Yep. No problem. Okay.
All right, thanks, Hunter. So let's talk about how we can take this amazing AI-driven data and make it actionable in Marketing Cloud. We're going to cover doing this in 3 separate ways today. One is going and creating those advanced, using it to create advanced segmentation and those custom journey paths. So we're going to take that amazing data in Salesforce and bring it into Marketing Cloud via the contact builder, those synchronized data extensions. With that, we'll use those SQL queries to transform that data to determine which segments should be entering in the journey, and then which custom paths should they be going down. The second part is delivering that one-to-one content at scale, where we're going to use those cool new features in Marketing Cloud to generate that one-to-one text content, use the typeface tool to create those images on a one-to-one basis, all pulled together with AmpScript using a data extension content management system. And then last but not least, we want to do those next best follow-up actions so that sales knows the best way that's going to work for them to close that deal or follow up with a lead. And then obviously the ones, the steps that it's going to work best for to maximize that conversion. So we'll go to the next slide, please. So before we dive into those 3 areas, let's take a look at this data that Hunter has created on the Salesforce side. So on the left, we've got all those Salesforce objects. We've got those standard objects, the campaign member, lead, and account. And then you can see that relationship, the linkage between the lead ID and that interaction summary, that new object that Hunter's created. So with that connection to the lead object that's being used for the campaign member, that opens up all those entities. And then all that data is flowing into the center part here, the Marketing Cloud side, which is going to do a couple of different areas of functionality. Number one, we need those key data points that are going to give us the ability to send that email in this example. So we would need a subscriber key. We would need an email address. Another data point that we're going to look to want to pull in is those data points is going to allow us to create those custom journey paths and also personalize the email. So you can see the personality data point there is going to drive the way the content is displayed. The call to action is going to show intent, etc. And then last but not least, Marketing Cloud is going to be utilized here to create those custom Salesforce objects for those next best follow-up actions with sales. So utilizing, having the owner ID, for instance, that's going to come if you need to create that task, or the account ID that's going to be folded in there if you need to add and create an opportunity. Let's go to the next slide, please. So let's take a look at this data, the data that Hunter's bringing into the Marketing Cloud environment. We've got 4 different examples of this. The first one is using that data to drive intent. So with using this time frame category, we're going to be able to listen to hear for, is this person interested in us reaching out to 0 to 30 days, or they may be more interested to talk in 6+ months. That's going to, signal intent. That could influence on the segmentation side, a ranking of which type of segment that would fall into. And then it also might impact the creative with the call to action as well. Another good example of the data is the different product categories or that next best product. What's going to be the most relevant product that's going to resonate with those with that subscriber? So in this example, we're looking for that category. What category is mentioned the most related to all those different entities based on the interaction summary. Once we find that category that's mentioned the most, then we're going to look for a flag that's going to determine what's that product within that category that we're going to want to bubble up. Now that's going to impact the content. That might also impact how you're going to be communicating to sales for them to follow up with the appropriate product on that. Next slide. A couple more data example options. This is how we could determine that different personality or the personas. A little bit more esoteric here, where we might be listening for different types of words, different combinations that might influence things like the imagery that might be in the email that's going to be generated by that typeface content block. Or it might be some notes that might be in a task for sales to follow up, knowing the overall feel, keywords that the subscriber has been voicing there. And then last but not least, the different indicators for what's going to be the best way to follow up with this lead. What's going to be a way that they're going to resonate, whether that's a phone call or an email address or maybe scheduling another meeting. Pull that out. That'll be populated in the segmentation and then also in the notifications that sales will use to follow up. We'll go to the next slide. And let's take a look at how this could be pulled together in using SQL in Marketing Cloud. So let's say this company has a sales tool, ranking tool like a Sales Wings, where they're pulling in this predictive score where it's either cold, warm, or hot. So in the center of this query, we're using that entity detail, that time frame entity detail. And if that entity detail is 0 to 30 days, then we might elevate that rank to a hot rank. Whereas if it's 6+ months, it might lower that ranking. So that's what that center of that query is doing, that nested query. On the outer part, we're using a case statement that's combining that predictive score from Sales Wings and the new data that we're bringing in from Prompt Builder and the LLM model to create this Uber ranking, where if somebody has a hot ranking from Sales Wings, but they're showing really low intent, then we might elevate them from a hot ranking to more of a warm or a cold ranking. Same thing if someone was showing a cold ranking from Sales Wings, we might, if they're showing high intent, we might elevate them to a hot ranking overall. And then if we go to the next slide, we can see how this might manifest in a journey itself, where we've got 3 separate paths here, depending on those different segments. So we have a hot path that might go directly to sales to send a hot lead notification to let them know that a lead is ready to talk. It might create a task. We've got a center path here, which is that warm ranking, which might send an email directly to that lead to gauge that intent. If they engage right away, they get moved up to the hot path. And then if they don't engage, they probably could just follow down a cold path where they're going to be served up a variety of different communications over time. And not only will this determine the different paths, but we're going to use the data that's being enhanced by the LM model to customize the email content, also to indicate different paths like a decision split in the journey itself. Go to the next slide. All right, let's talk about this one-to-one content at scale. So we've got 2 great options right out of the box in Marketing Cloud under the Einstein Copy Insights family, where you can create personalities based on the personas of your brand. With those personalities created, Einstein will create a variety of different, 5 different versions of subject lines, body copy, all based on those different personality types. And then not only will it create them, they will improve and improve those different variations and different copy points over time. And then that combined with the typeface content block, where you can create one-to-one images for your brand, no longer having to go photo shoots or look for stock images. The typeface content block will create them for you. You can really, truly create those one-to-one, content pieces at scale. So let's go to the next slide. Let's take a look at how we can pull this together in 2 different ways. One is using this next best product query. So what we would, with something as simple as the lead ID from your communication, that can unlock all of those entity details from those interaction summaries. And you can pull in all of this data. Well, once you sort of unlock the interaction summary, you'll want to do something like have a separate query down below that's going to determine for all of those different categories, what's the top category for that subscriber, and then also within the category, the top product. So with that determined in a data extension, you can bring that back up into the AMP script and use lookup ordered rows to find that top category, and then once you find that top category, the top product, then that would be that would give your recommendation for the product to feature prominently in your communications. And then the next slide, the next example is using AMP script to build that AI-driven content management system. So a couple of things you need before you actually do this in AMP script. First, you'll need a query to determine the best personality fit based on those different entities that you're listening for. It's very similar to the query we just looked at in a previous slide. Once that's built to determine which personality to each subscriber fits into, you'll want to create a content management data extension that has it broken down by each of those personalities. You'll want to list the subject line, the body copy, even the actual URL images from the typeface content in that data extension. So with that created, you could use something as simple as random function in AMP script to find that personality for each subscriber, and then sort through and find one of the 5 or so different combinations of that text and imagery, and then set those values so that in the email itself, it displays the values that are in that data extension content management system. So if we go to the next slide, it'll just sort of give you an overview of how this comes together in the emails themselves. So here's the same email two different audiences. So on the left here, we've got Abigail 0026 interaction summary. She's at retirement age. She's showing high intent because she's ready to get serious about her retirement or those products. And then we've got Victoria here on the right, 0027 interaction summary. She's a young professional. She's probably showing lower intent, certainly important to her, but not as important as Abigail. And you can see from top to bottom, these emails are dramatically different. So you can see the image at the top resonates to the different audience, the different personalities that they might be sharing in that LLM-driven content. Section number 2, you can see that Einstein copy that comes through that body copy that's determined by that personality. Number 3 is that next best product logic in AmScript to determine which products to feature. And even sections 4 and 5, based on that next best follow-up decisions, you can customize the call to action. You can include a follow-up steps. Like for Abigail, she might want to reach out to a sales rep, where for Victoria, based on her personality type, maybe not so much. Maybe she's just gathering information at this point, so not to be too salesy. So an example of the same email, dramatically different for those two audiences on a one-to-one basis. And then next slide, the last section we wanted to cover was those next best follow-up actions. So taking and listening for what's going to be the best way for sales to follow up. You can use those data points in something as simple as a decision split in your journey. So you could create a task if that's the best way for sales to follow up. You could update an opportunity or create a new opportunity if that's preferred. You could even create a case if it's not a sales related decision. It's something that's more something that service would be more appropriate to follow up with. And not only creating these different objects that would resonate with sales, but personalizing with all of that data. So you're serving up, what's the best product they're interested in? What are the different personality points? And there's a lot of personalization you can do, customization of all of those objects. You can sort of see here using that handlebar code in the object activity to bring in those different personalization types, so that sales isn't just getting a generic task, they're getting one that's got all of this information for, say, they're following up with Victoria, they'll know the best about her. So that wraps up those 3 sections. So hopefully that gave you a good overview, even though I missed Hunter's section. I've heard it. It's been fantastic. Hopefully it gives you an overview of the history of where we've come to this date on the transcription history and LLM models. I hope it gave you a great overview of how to take this GenAI architecture. The prompt builder demo is so cool. And then hopefully it gave you a couple of ideas on the Marketing Cloud side for different ways to see this pull together on the Marketing Cloud side, leveraging that data from Salesforce. I guess we'll open up for questions.
Not seeing anything in the Q&A channel here, so I think we're probably ready to wrap. Tim, I think the presentation is going to be recorded in public for if people want to review this later. But you and I are also accessible on LinkedIn, or our contact information is not hard to find if people have follow-up questions. So.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Well, thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you.